Discover 7 heartwarming unexpected love stories from the Middle Ages that changed lives forever. In the little town of Willow Creek, stories live in the walls of Sarah's café, swirled together with the aroma of freshly baked bread and sweet pastries. They wove through the laughter of friends and families who gathered around worn wooden tables, reminiscing their own tales. But as Sarah, a 34-year-old single mom, perched on a stool behind the counter, her heart felt heavy. Each day, fewer customers walk through the door, and the shadow of a looming big-box store in the distance only quickens the chill of uncertainty coursing through her veins. Her eyes darted to her young daughter, Emily, who busily crafted her own cardboard version of the café. "Look, Mommy. It's just like ours." The girl's hopeful eyes sparkled with innocence, pulling at Sarah's heartstrings. She yearned to offer both warmth and security through the café that had defined their family legacy since her grandmother's time. But with every bill that piled up, each echo of laughter fading, Sarah felt the fabric of her dream ripping apart. Every Thursday night, locals gathered for storytelling. It was a tradition, an outlet where Sarah mingled the medieval tales of love, bravery, and sacrifice from her lineage into her own struggles. This week, she told the story of a knight who faced insurmountable odds, his love for a queen igniting a fire that salvaged kingdoms. The crowd listened, captivated, while each resonating word poured courage into Sarah's spirit. This was her purpose: to connect hearts, to remind them of the bonds they shared. But just outside that warmth, worry clawed at her edges. "Did you hear the big box store is coming?" a voice murmured in the crowd, igniting hushed whispers. A palpable tension settled over the café, transforming the atmosphere from joy to uncertainty in an instant. The joy of togetherness was threatened. Emily looked up at her mother, confused by the sudden darkness that cast a shadow over their enchanted kingdom. Meanings shifted, hearts divided, pitting neighbor against neighbor. The café became the battleground for their fears. Before they fully understood the implications, Harold, a beloved war veteran, stood up, his white hair nearly glowing beneath the café lights. "Do we forget our stories?" he asked, his voice quaking yet firm. "It's about more than just saving a bakery, it's about what we hold dear: family, memories, each other." A wave of remembrance washed over the audience, pulling them back to the essence of their community. The flicker of hope in Sarah's heart danced with the warmth of his words. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just as hope began to swell, a storm brewed. The meeting that followed stirred up arguments, spouses raised voices, and neighbors turned away. Sarah's heartbeat quickened. She felt more detached than ever, watching her community fall apart. Just when she thought they'd cling to the past, bitterness surged as sides were drawn, leaving uncertainty hanging in the thick air. Each story that had once fused their hearts began to fray, and as Sarah glanced at Emily's worried face, a resolute question thundered within her: would their shared love stories be enough to hold them together, or would they lose everything they cherished to the allure of modernity? The distant hum of change grew louder, and the future of Sarah's beloved café hung in the balance, trapped between nostalgia and fate. The turmoil in the café seemed almost palpable, a raw, thick emotion weaving through the air like smoke. Sarah could feel the weight of despair pressing down, smothering the gentle flickers of hope. The laughter of those who once crowded her tables was replaced by sharp words and glances that cut deeper than any sword. Harold's fervent plea rang in her ears, but it felt overshadowed by the anger simmering in the room. "Family, memories, each other," she whispered to herself, clutching Emily's small, warm hand in hers. She wondered if those words still held any meaning. Were they enough to keep a community from falling apart at the seams? As the arguments escalated, a flash of determination ignited in Sarah's heart. She couldn't just sit back and watch her dream wither. Taking a deep breath, she stood up, her voice shaky yet loud enough to turn heads. "Everyone. Please, listen." The cafe fell silent, eyes now focused on her. "I know this is hard. I know we're scared, but we can't let our fears tear us apart." Her words stumbled out, raw and unrefined, yet somehow they resonated. "This cafe isn't just bricks and mortar. It's our heart, our home. It's where we forge memories." She looked around the room, finding the familiar faces of her neighbors. Every cup of coffee shared, every slice of pie, every story told, that's what binds us. Isn't that worth fighting for? At that moment, Emily released her grip, stepping forward, eyes bright. "And I love this cafe. It's South my favorite place. I don't want to lose it." Slowly, the tension in the air began to dissipate. Sarah's heart swelled as murmurs of agreement swept through the crowd. Little Emily, so brave and innocent, had brought a spark. People who had once stood divided now exchanged glances, some showing faint smiles, others nodding. They were remembering. Harold's voice joined the chorus. "Yes. We can support Sarah. We can come together to help make this place thrive." The murmurs grew louder, transforming into eager discussion, but then, a sharp voice cut through the gathering. "What's the point? A big box store will have everything cheaper. You really think this little cafe can compete?" It was Mr. Baker, a local businessman, his skepticism familiar to their ears. The words hung in the air like a stubborn fog. "Maybe it can't compete in prices," Sarah replied, gathering her courage. "But it can compete in heart. We have something they can never offer: community." A moment of silence passed, thick with contemplation. Then slowly, Harold took the floor again. "What if we tried? What if we promote local businesses, shop together?" One by one, faces began to light with the warmth of possibilities. They started brainstorming ways to draw people back into the cafe, sharing ideas that had been buried in the shadow of uncertainty. The energy shifted, transforming from defensive to collaborative. They could organize events, promote family nights, and hold contests. Sarah felt a flicker of excitement igniting amidst the tension. Could this work? But as ideas flowed, another dread whispered in her mind. Would it be enough? She watched her community begin to rally, yet doubt gnawed at her heart like a persistent pest. As they forged ahead, planning ways to bring the cafe back to life, a single thought remained unaddressed. What if the big box store's arrival still changed everything, even if they fought? With that question looming, Sarah felt her resolve deepen. Whatever happened, she wouldn't give up without a fight. In that determined moment, she understood. Sometimes, love and community meant taking bold, brave steps into the unknown, even when fear lurked close by. With a renewed spirit, she looked into the eyes of her neighbors. "Let's make this happen together." But then came a distant rumble, the thunder of trucks approaching from the horizon, heralding changes they could not see yet, changes that could threaten everything they were trying to save. And so the question lingered, could love truly withstand the storm? Would it be enough to hold their fragile dreams in the face of an uncertain future? Sarah stood at the center of the cafe, her heart racing. The heaviness in the room had begun to lift, but with each rumble of truck engines drawing nearer, a fresh wave of anxiety washed over her. She could almost see the shadows of the big box store creeping into her beloved cafe, casting doubt over her community's plans. As if sensing her unease, Emily reached up, grasping Sarah's hand tightly once more. "Mom," she whispered, "do you really think we can save it?" There was a tremor of fear in her voice, a reflection of the unease that settled over everyone present. Sarah knelt down to look directly into her daughter's eyes. "We can try, sweetheart. And trying is the first step." She offered a smile, but found it bittersweet. Could it really be enough? The crowd was buzzing now, sharing their ideas with energy that was infectious. Young mothers spoke of bake sales, while older gentlemen reminisced about trivia nights that had filled the cafe with laughter and camaraderie. Sarah felt herself getting swept up in their enthusiasm. Maybe they could harness this collective spirit to fight back. Let us put together a community event. Harold suggested, excitement glowing on his face. A festival. We can invite local artists, musicians, and showcase what our cafe means to us. The room erupted with applause and cheers. Hope began to flicker back to life, shining through the cracks of their fears. As the plans unfolded, Sarah could see the determination on each face, strangers united by something far greater than just coffee and pastries. They were fighting for a sense of belonging, a piece of life they had built together, yet, deep down, she felt that nagging worry. The looming store wasn't just a business, it represented a changing world where connections could fade beneath the cold, hard price tags. Sarah shook her head, forcing herself to focus on the vibrant ideas bubbling around her. Flashes of laughter and joy echoed in her memories, reminders of what this cafe had meant to so many. But underneath that joy lay a question: what if this fight only delayed the inevitable? What if nothing they did could stop the encroachment of change? The evening grew late, and people began to wander back to their homes, the warmth from the cafe lingering with them like a soft embrace. As the last group left, Sarah and Emily remained, staring at the empty tables that once thrived with life and light. "Do you think people will really come back?" Emily asked, tossing her curly hair over her shoulder. "I believe they will," Sarah replied, though uncertainty churned in her stomach like a storm. "But we need to keep believing." That night, Sarah lay in bed, wide awake. The distant growl of trucks still droned in her ears, and visions of the cafe being replaced with something impersonal clouded her thoughts. Could they really stand strong against the tide? With each heartbeat, the answer remained as elusive as the dreams they cherished. Morning light broke, painting the world in hues of gold. Sarah felt a renewed resolve rising within her. This wasn't just about saving a cafe, it was about nurturing the ties that bound her family and community together. She climbed out of bed, ready to take action. Just then, a loud rumbling interrupted her thoughts, and she rushed to the window. Rows of trucks rolled into sight, workers unloading cardboard boxes emblazoned with a logo she feared. Sarah's heart sank, a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was it. The moment of truth had arrived. What would she do now? The weight of their future hung in the balance. Feelings clashed within her, fear and hope battling for control. She knew her next steps could shape everything, and time was running out. Could love truly withstand the storm that was rapidly approaching? And this time, was it strong enough to keep their fragile dreams from crumbling at the touch of change? Sarah stood frozen at the window, her breath catching in her throat. The trucks continued to roll by, each one a physical reminder of the fate that loomed just outside her cafe, a fate she had spent so many sleepless nights dreading. "Mom." Emily tugged gently at her sleeve, pulling her back to the moment. "What's wrong?" A wave of warmth rushed over Sarah as she turned to her daughter. "Nothing, Em. Just thinking." She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. This wasn't just about coffee and pastries anymore, it was about resilience and the spirit of her community. "Maybe we should start planning for that festival," she suggested, surprising even herself. The sparkle in Emily's eyes lit a fire within Sarah. "We can brainstorm together, make it really special. Can I help with the poster?" Emily beamed, her excitement infectious. "Yes. I'd love that." Sarah smiled, feeling a renewed sense of hope. Family projects had always bonded them, but now it felt like a lifeline. They spent the morning sketching ideas on paper, colors splashing onto the page as Emily's laughter filled the air. It was a welcome distraction, one that eased her worries if only just a bit. Just as they finished the first draft, a knock broke through the clamor of their creativity. It was Harold, still buzzing from the night before, his hands brimming with flyers for possible artists and performers. "I thought we could take this door to door," he exclaimed, handing them out with zeal. "Spread the word." Sarah felt her heart lift. "Yes, let us do it. Together." They wandered the neighborhood, knocking at doors and chatting with familiar faces, spreading excitement like confetti. Each conversation breathed more life into Sarah's flagging spirit. Neighbors shared stories, and with every shared laugh, she could feel the distance between her fears and reality shrinking, but with every step she took further into the community, Sarah could not shake that underlying tension. The very trucks that served as the center of her anxiety loomed ever closer, and she couldn't ignore their presence. As they finished their rounds, they found Billy, the owner of the local hardware store, sitting on his porch. "You really think a festival can stop that store?" he huffed skeptically, crossing his arms. "Not just stop it," Sarah ventured, hope threading through her voice. "We need to show what we have here, what makes us special. We can't let them take that away without a fight." Billy softened slightly at her words, nodding slowly. "All right. You might just be onto something, Sarah." With that flicker of support, a wave of resolve surged through her. If they could continue building momentum, they might just pull this off. The following weeks blurred into a whirlwind of planning, painting, rehearsing. Posters plastered the town, and Emily became the heart of their efforts, tossing her curly hair proudly as she rallied her little friends to help. Laughter filled the air as children painted rocks for decorations, and adults reminisced over recipes they hadn't touched in years, reviving culinary traditions that seemed lost to time. But just as things began to spark joy, the trucks once again rumbled past, their engines echoing reminders of the fight ahead. Each thud of tires against pavement felt like an anchor, drawing Sarah back into the depths of uncertainty. That evening, after a long day of preparations, Sarah stood outside the café, watching the sun melt into a brilliant orange. She clutched Emily's hand, squeezing it tightly. "Do you think it's enough?" she whispered, as if the easy warmth of the day could shield her from the reality approaching. Emily looked up, eyes twinkling with fearless innocence. "I know it is, Mom. You just have to believe it." Feeling a mix of pride and anxiety, Sarah gazed into the distance, contemplating the impact all of this could truly have. Could they really succeed in rekindling their community spirit? As shadows began to stretch and deepen, the feeling of uncertainty flooded back. The very real possibility of defeat loomed like the darkening sky above. If this festival didn't work, if it wasn't enough, what would become of them all? Tomorrow was their pivotal moment. She could only hope that when the lights shone bright, the love of their community would drown out the growing darkness. But as the clouds gathered, doubt whispered in her ear, leaving her wondering, could this ever really spill hope against the tide of change? The sun rose the next morning, casting a soft glow over the town, but Sarah's heart felt heavy as she hurried into the café. Emily buzzed around her like a lively bee, excited for the day ahead. "Mom, can we put the cookies in the shape of hearts?" "That would be so special," she chirped, her eyes sparkling. "Of course we can, sweetie," Sarah replied, her mind still battling the storm of worries. She forced herself to focus on Emily's enthusiasm rather than the fear closing in on her. They prepared the café for the festival, decorating every inch with colorful ribbons and handmade signs. The air was thick with the sweet scent of pastries baking, yet Sarah couldn't quite shake the nagging dread at the back of her mind. As the hours slipped by, people began to wander in, drawn by the cheerful atmosphere. Neighbors arrived, all eager to lend a hand. Harold set up a table for the local artists, carefully arranging their crafts. Laughter echoed as friends mingled, and slowly, Sarah felt the warmth of hope igniting again. "Look! It's happening!" Emily exclaimed, pointing to the growing crowd outside. Families came together, smiles on faces, their spirits entwined in this moment of celebration. Sarah's heart raced, a swell of joy washing over her. Maybe this was their chance, but as Sarah glanced past the crowd, her eyes caught the sight of those heavy trucks once more, lumbering down the street like dark clouds on the horizon. Anxiety clawed at her gut, pulling her back into the depth of her worries. "Mom." Emily noticed her distraction. "Why do you look sad?" "The festival is going great." "I'm just worried, Em. I want us to succeed. I want everyone to feel what we have here," Sarah murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Focus on the fun. Remember what we talked about. Emily leaned up and tugged at Sarah's sleeve gently. "We're showing our love. That's what counts." In that moment, something inside Sarah shifted. Emily's unwavering belief lit a spark, igniting a fire of determination within her. She was right, they had created something beautiful against the odds. Choosing to embrace the day, she poured her heart into the festival, mingling, laughing, and feeding off the energy surrounding her. The festival swelled with life. The sun beat down warmly, casting golden rays on the festivities. Children danced, their laughter a melody that resonated through the café and beyond. Sarah couldn't help but feel the joy build around her, each person lifting her spirit higher. The moment came when Emily stood on a makeshift stage, her voice ringing out as she welcomed everyone. "Thank you all for being here. Today is about love and community." The crowd erupted with cheers. Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes as pride surged through her. This was it. This was what they had fought for. But then, in the midst of her joy, a sudden commotion broke through the smile on her face. Sarah turned to see a group of local business owners gathering at the edge of the crowd, their expressions dark with urgency. The tension in the air shifted, palpable and swirling. She could feel dread creeping back in. Had something happened? Were the trucks pulling closer yet again? The festivities continued around her, yet anxiety threatened to drown out the happiness. As the crowd began to murmur, Sarah's heart raced. She pushed her way through the people, searching for answers. What did this mean for them? Would their joyful day come crashing down? The growing concern weighed heavy, pulling her thoughts into dark waters. Just how fragile had their victory turned out to be? As she approached the gathering, ready to confront the source of anxiety pulling at her heart, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger than the festival itself. As Sarah reached the edge of the crowd, her pulse quickened. She could hear snippets of heated conversation floating through the air, tinged with urgency and concern. The faces gathered were a mix of familiar friends and acquaintances, but right now, they all wore expressions that screamed of worry. "I heard they're shutting us down, 5 businesses already written up. What is going to happen to our café?" The word struck Sarah like a chill wind. Her heart sank. Her café, the heart of this community, hanging in the balance. She squeezed through the tightening circle, feeling the weight of each person's fear pressing against her. She finally found the courage to speak, her voice slicing through the thick atmosphere. "What is going on?" she asked, trying to project calmness. Even as her insides churned, Harold stepped forward, his usually jovial face a picture of concern. "They're planning to bring in those trucks to start roadwork today. They don't care about the festival. They don't care about us. The festival is a distraction for them," another business owner chimed in, frustration boiling under the surface. "They see us all gathered here, and they think it's their chance to put the final nail in the coffin of our businesses." A chorus of murmurs swept through the crowd, filled with confusion and rising panic. Sarah could feel a fire flickering to life within her, pushing against the dread. They had fought so hard to keep this community alive. How could they let it all dissolve now? "Wait," Sarah called, her voice trembling slightly, yet fueled with determination. "If we stand together, they can't ignore us. We've already brought everyone together today. This is our day to show them what we can be." Hope sparked between the friends, an ember in the chaos. Emily, who had been watching wide-eyed, stepped up to her mother's side. "We can show love and strength," she said proudly. "Exactly," Sarah replied, warmed by her daughter's contagious enthusiasm, her heart swelling with gratitude. "This festival is not just about us. It's about everyone here, about our community. If we lose that, we lose everything." And just like that, the tension began to shift. People started to nod, some shouting out ideas. They could take petitions, call the local news, rally and make a stand. The sound of excitement began to hum under the layers of worry. "Let us do it," said Harold, his voice rising above the crowd. "Let us show them we won't back down." A wild cheer erupted as the crowd rallied, each person's face lighting up with renewed resolve. Sarah felt the swell of pride wash over her, a warmth spreading through the group. They were not alone, not today, but even as hope began to stir, a dark figure loomed in the distance. A sleek, black car had pulled up near the trucks. It was one of the developers responsible for the looming disaster. Sheckler's face had a sinister smile, a haunting contrast to the hope bubbling around her. His gaze locked onto Sarah. She felt the cold grip of uncertainty resurface. What did he plan to do? Would he try to crush their rally, extinguish the flame of their fight? The moment held breath where joy and fear coalesced into one. The stakes had just been raised. Would their defiance stand against the weight of adversity? Sarah held her daughter's hand tight, ready for the battle ahead. Today could change everything, or it could all slip away. The festival had turned into a fight for survival, and the stakes had never felt higher. The crowd's cheers echoed in Sarah's ears, a melody of determination fighting against the noise of uncertainty. She felt a rush of adrenaline. This was their moment. But Sheckler's watchful eyes bore down on her. He was calculating, and his smirk promised trouble. "Listen up," Sarah called out, rallying the energy around her. "We need a plan. We can't just scream into the wind. We have to be smart about this." People leaned in closer, drawn by her urgency. Emily nestled into her side, her small hand gripping Sarah's like a lifeline. "Let us start by forming a committee," another business owner chimed in. "We can organize petitions, gather community leaders, reach out to the press, anything to make sure our voices are heard." "Yes." Sarah nodded, excitement sparking in her chest. "And what about a march? We could march right up to City Hall and demand to speak to someone in charge." The crowd erupted in energetic chatter, the idea taking hold like wildfire. There was a palpable shift, a growing determination swelling in the air. Sarah's heart soared. This was the fight she had waiting for. The fight for her café, her community, her daughter's future. As discussions of logistics and strategies filled the air, Sarah's focus shifted toward Sheckler. He was still watching, leaning casually against his car, a figure of arrogance amidst the growing unity around her. What was he thinking? Did he truly believe he could bulldoze through their dreams? Her stomach twisted at the thought. "Excuse me." Sarah stepped forward, pointing a finger in Sheckler's direction, her voice unwavering. "You're not welcome here." The crowd fell silent, all eyes turning to Sheckler. The developer's smile faltered for a moment, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. But he quickly regained composure, his expression shifting into something dark and mocking. "You think you can stop progress with a few pathetic speeches?" He laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. "These streets will be widened, and your little festival will be forgotten." Anger surged within Sarah. How dare he belittle everything they had fought for? "Progress?" she shouted back, her voice steady but filled with passion. "This community is not a casualty of your greed. We're the heart of this town, and we will not be erased." Cheers erupted behind her again, a wave of voices rising to match her intensity. Emily jumped up and down, beaming with newfound hope, proud of her mother's bravery. Sheckler glanced at the crowd, his expression shifting from amusement to irritation. "You'll regret this," he spat, retreating to his car. An immediate sense of victory washed over Sarah. Maybe they had rattled him, if only slightly, but victory was fleeting. The deep rumble of construction trucks shifting into gear echoed nearby, cutting through the cheering crowds like a knife. Anxiety washed over her again, gripping her heart. "Everyone, let us prepare for our march," Sarah said, forcing calmness into her words. "We need to gather our strength and show them we're serious." The group coalesced, energizing one another. They moved together, a tide of solidarity, toward the makeshift stage set up for the festival's events. Each step felt like a small rebellion against despair. As Sarah led the way, she caught a glimpse of Harold. His brows furrowed, he seemed distracted, deep in thought. "What's wrong?" Sarah asked, concern etched on her face. He hesitated, worry etched in his features. I overheard some of their plans. If they go through with it today, they might block access to your café for weeks. A cold rush chilled her spine. We can't let that happen. I want to let them take away our work. We'll work together until we make them listen. With steely determination, Sarah clenched her jaw, resolve filling the gaps of uncertainty. Every face around her was a reflection of the fight she had in her heart, a fight for her café, her community, and her daughter's bright future. But as they prepared to march, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much bigger. What if Sheckler had allies in higher places? The wind of revolt gusted through the crowd, but so did the shadows of doubt. This battle could define their future. And in that moment, as tension thickened in the air, Sarah knew one thing: this fight would determine not just their survival, but their spirit. Would they have the strength to face whatever came next? A deep breath filled her lungs, the scent of determination hanging in the air. Tomorrow might be the day they could reclaim their community, but today was just the start. The crowd vibrated with anticipation, their determination palpable as they gathered near the festival stage. Flags waved in the breeze, a sea of colors reflecting their unity. Sarah felt a swell of pride mixed with nervousness ripple through her. Today wasn't just about the café. It was about their place in this town, their voices rising against the machinery of indifference. Let us get organized, she urged, her voice ringing clear against the distant growl of construction trucks. We'll make signs, split into groups, and hit the streets. Emily pulled at her sleeve, looking up with wide eyes. Mom, do you think we'll win? Sarah knelt, meeting her daughter's gaze. Winning isn't only about what happens today. It's about showing everyone our hearts, our strength. And that we won't back down. Reassured, Emily nodded, a spark of determination ignited in her small frame. As the crowd rallied, Sarah could feel the weight of their hopes resting on her shoulders. She could see familiar faces, people who had shared her journey, who had become family through shared laughter and struggles. Each person was a thread woven into the rich tapestry of their community. The people around her split into small groups, some taking charge of crafting banners that said, "Save our heart, and no to greed." Others discussed their strategy for the march. Laughter and shouts filled the air, transforming the palpable tension into something vibrant, almost electric, but in the back of her mind, Sarah felt Sheckler's shadow lurking nearby. She turned, scanning the area for him. He had made it clear he would stop at nothing to bulldoze through their lives. The thought made her pulse quicken. Keeping the fear at bay was a struggle. Focus, Sarah, she whispered to herself, grounding herself in the moment. Someone shouted, "Ready?" The crowd erupted with cheers as they formed a line, ready to march toward City Hall. Heart pounding, Sarah took her place at the front, leading the way with determination. With every step, she felt the warmth of community behind her. They were all in this together, their feet pounding the pavement like a heartbeat that refused to falter. As they turned the corner toward the main road, the sight of the towering City Hall brought a mix of hope and tension. A rush of adrenaline surged through her. This was at the turning point they had all dreamed of. Keep your heads up. We have the truth on our side. Sarah shouted, her voice slicing through the murmurs. A megaphone passed through the crowd, and one of the local teachers began chanting, sparking a ripple of voices joining in. They are our community. They are our heart. It echoed down the street, a melody of rebellion and solidarity. Just then, a low rumble began. More trucks rolled into view, closer than she'd anticipated. Her stomach knotted. The realization gripped her hard, they were ready to start work today. The battle was intensifying. Heart racing, she glanced back at her group, who mirrored her anxiety but remained steadfast. Don't let them intimidate you, she called, trying to wrestle down the fear swarming in her chest. We are not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for our future. As they pressed on, Sarah locked eyes with people lining the sidewalk, some stopping to watch, others, perhaps even wavering in their support for Sheckler's plans. In those eyes, she saw concern, curiosity, a hint of solidarity growing, and it fueled her resolve. With determination, she pushed forward, her voice rising above the din. Together, we can make them listen. But then, through the crowd, she spotted Sheckler flanked by two other men in suits standing at the edge, arms crossed, amusement flickering in his eyes. Fear grabbed hold of her. Did they truly believe they were invincible? As he began to stride toward her, a cold sense of dread washed over Sarah. What if he had more than just plans? What if they were prepared to strike back, hard? Let us make every moment count. She shouted, rallying her group, but now uncertainty loomed amidst their resolve. As they marched closer to City Hall, the air thickened with anticipation and dread. Sarah's heart thundered, but this was far from over. The struggle for their survival, their community, and their voices would only intensify. They had taken a stand, but what lay ahead? And deep in her gut, the question lingered, would they be ready when the real fight began? The sound of the crowd intensified as they approached City Hall. Their chants filled the air with a surge of hope that twisted and churned in Sarah's heart. Each step forward ignited something within her, a flame of determination that she never knew could burn this bright. But as she caught Sheckler's eye across the throng, that flame flickered. There, behind his smug grin, lay the weight of uncertainty. Hold the line! Came a shout from behind. Rallying the participants was crucial now more than ever. Sarah turned her back on Sheckler, forcing herself to focus on the people she was fighting for. The street was alive, colors blending into one another, emotions bubbling like a cauldron. She caught sight of Emily waving a sign that read, "Save our heart." Her daughter's smile beamed with innocence and strength. It made Sarah's resolve harden even more. This was about Emily's future, about ensuring that this town, their town, wouldn't lose its soul to corporate greed. "Remember why we're here," she exclaimed, trying to create a rallying heartbeat for the crowd. "This is about community. This is about love and the life we've built." The crowd responded with claps, cheers, and a wave of enthusiasm that provided a momentary refuge from Sheckler's looming threat. Just as she felt the tide shifting, a deep rumbling penetrated the air. The construction trucks, now just a few yards away, rolled into view, engines revving defiantly. Their sheer size dominated the scene, casting long shadows on their gathering. The sight tightened Sarah's throat, the image of giant machines crushing dreams smashed against the hard reality of their fight. "Stay focused," she shouted, trying to drown out the dread. "This isn't just about today, it's about tomorrow." But deep inside, the fear echoed back, whispering doubts. Could they really stand against such force? Sheckler, his smirk unwavering, stepped forward again, elbowing his way through the crowd as if he belonged there. "You think this will change anything?" he called out, his voice laced with contempt. "Look around. This town is already mine." Something in Sarah snapped. She couldn't let him worm his way into their spirit. "You don't own us," she shouted back, defiance lacing every word. "We are the heart of this town. The heart that you can never take away." The crowd amplified her words, anger mingling with hope. They surged forward, unified against the looming threat. Sarah felt energy ripple through the ranks, igniting something deeper within all of them, but just as they were gaining momentum, Sheckler raised a hand, signaling his men. "You think these kids have what it takes?" he teased, his voice echoing through the throng. "Think again." The tension escalated like a trapped animal ready to fight back. Sheckler's henchmen stepped closer, their eyes scanning the crowd with menacing intent. The crowd jolted at the sight, a wave of anxiety rippling through them, but Sarah stood her ground, refusing to back down. Then Emily, her voice small but fierce, called out, "Mom! What do we do?" The question pulled Sarah from her thoughts, grounding her once again. She knelt, eye level with her daughter, and grasped her shoulders. "We stand together. No matter what he throws at us, we stand united." Having said those words, Sarah felt the power of every person around her anchor into her core. They weren't just a crowd, they were a movement. With every shout, every sign held high, they let their voices rise above the roar of the engines and Sheckler's mockery. As the tensions reached a boiling point, the space between Sarah and Sheckler seemed to close in. Her heart raced, not from fear, but a dawning realization. They had the numbers, the heart, but what of strategy? "Are you ready?" Someone called, and at that moment, she realized they were all ready, but just before they could make their next move, a piercing whistle blasted through the air, the kind that heralded a storm. "Get ready, Sarah!" Someone warned, and she felt the ground shift beneath them. What would happen next could change everything. Would they rise as one, or would they split at the seams? Together, they held their breath, anticipating the final throw. The sound of the whistle hung in the air like a challenge, sharp and demanding. Sarah held her ground, heart racing, but she couldn't shy away from the fight. "This is it!" she shouted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Together, we stand. Together, we fight." With one unified roar, the crowd surged forward, a wave of hearts and voices crashing against the looming threat of Sheckler and his plans. Emily stood proudly beside her mother, eyes wide and bright, embodying the spirit they all fought for. This was not just about a café, it was about their lives, their memories, their community. Sheckler's smirk faded as the energy tilted dramatically. He motioned to his henchmen, but the bright-eyed faces before him spurred a realization: these were not just bodies, they were souls ignited with love and memories worth protecting. The weight of Sheckler's arrogance began to falter under the intense belief radiating from Sarah and her neighbors. "Fear won't drive us apart," Sarah cried, pushing through the tide of friends and acquaintances. "We will not let greed drown our spirit." In that moment, the chant morphed. From whispers of doubt to an echo of strength, it bounced off the walls of City Hall. "Save our heart! Save our heart!" A mantra that thrummed in the chest of every person present. Hope surged, a collective resolve spreading through the air as brightly as the sun beginning to peek out from behind the clouds, but the trucks behind them roared louder. Heavy machinery grumbled ominously, engines revving with relentless anticipation. Yet as the sounds coiled around them like an encroaching storm, the crowd held tight. Fear could cripple, but anger and love, they could unite. Just then, a figure stepped forward. It was Harold, catching Sarah's eye. "We can't let them push us back," he asserted, unwavering. "What matters is what we build together. Our strength, a community." His voice carried above the growing anxiety, reminding everyone of their purpose. Sheckler clenched his jaw, his confidence wavering as the crowd's energy transformed everything in their path. Sarah felt it deep within, a ripple of change. In unison, they tightened the circle around their heart, the café that birthed memories, connections, and stories. "What do we want?" Sarah shouted, drawing in a deep breath, channeling the ethos of the stories she loved so much. "Community!" They roared back, voices intermingling, a tapestry woven through time. "When do we want it?" She pushed again, heart pounding. "Now!" The crowd erupted, a vibrant expression of hope and unity washing over them. Sheckler stepped back, confusion settling on his face. He hadn't anticipated such ferocity. This wasn't just a fight for a café, it was a declaration that would resonate far beyond the walls of Willow Creek. "Let us take this city!" She called out once more, and they surged ahead. The collective motivation acted as a barrier against the trucks, an impenetrable wall of determination and love. Each chant became a shield that fortified them against despair, but they had to act fast. "Harold, Emily, come with me." Sarah beckoned, her eyes scanning the momentum of the crowd as they pushed forward. Each face illuminated with newfound purpose, people she shared laughs with, people who understood what they fought for. They reached the heart of City Hall, a collective body of spirit that refused to wither under pressure. "This is our time," she yelled. "We are Willow Creek. And as long as we stand together, we will be heard." The trucks halted, momentarily caught in the whirlwind of voices rising above them. Reporters rushed into the chaos, capturing the movement that pulsed with palpable energy and authenticity. People outside the town began to take notice. The heart of Willow Creek warmed a national audience news enough to broadcast that could not only revive a business but a whole community. Just then, an unexpected ally emerged from the shadows of the crowd. A woman who had been watching from the fringes rushed forward. "I'm with the local Chamber of Commerce," she stated, standing beside Sarah with her own sign. "Support local. We'll join you. We can advocate for local businesses. We can make this city listen." A wave of support crashed over the gathering, drawing in even those who had been skeptical. Emily's eyes sparkled with excitement, her voice breaking through the commotion. "Together, we can fix this." Her innocence cut through the heaviness, opening hearts one smile at a time. "Together." Sarah echoed, the chant returning with renewed energy. "Together, we are stronger than any greed." And so, they marched in unison. The trucks, parked ominously by the curb, suddenly felt less threatening, not because they had fled, but because the spirit of a community was alive and roaring, refusing to back down. Sheckler seemed small now, dwarfed by the love and connection swirling around them. The crowd surged forward, holding on to hope like a beacon. They had channeled their vulnerability into power. And soon, that power would take the stage, shimmering with the promise of resilience. "Whatever happens, we won't stop fighting," Sarah declared, glancing lovingly at her daughter, who still held the sign high. "We won't let our stories fade into the shadows. Together, we will celebrate love, community, and resilience for generations to come." The crowd erupted again, but this time it was raw and thunderous. They would hold on, they would fight. This was more than a café, it was their very essence, ignited against the storm. Love had become their most powerful weapon, and it would guide them forward. Now is the time, friends. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Your engagement truly makes a difference. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this ending, because we want to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this inspiring transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting our community through these actions.